Okay, good afternoon to all of you. My name is Dippin. I'm here at PharmaPlus and I'm one of the professional services pharmacists. And I am sure that you are uh, fully aware, really, of some of the things that have been going on in the past few days. It's taken us a little bit of time to figure out exactly what the implication of the government announcements for the cuts are. And really, what this video is about, a very short video in actual fact, is to give you an idea of basically what's going on and some of the things that you really need to be aware of. Bearing in mind the fact that we are also running a Pharma Plus event in the near future as well, and we would strongly recommend as well that you attend that those series of 2 days as well in November, and that information has been sent out recently. We'll be sending it out again. Okay, so let's make a move on, and what we'll do is we'll talk about six main things. We'll talk about what's actually happened in the past few days, what actually caused these events, a brief history of what happened and where we got to today, well, where we got up to, what the actual intentions of the government are. Just they seem to be very, very insistent about pushing through these changes, really without giving it much thought, or supposedly much thought. And really, it's to sort of give you an idea of where the government's coming from as well, so we can fully understand and appreciate what they need to do. What we'll also do is we'll give you an indication as to how much your pharmacy stands to gain or lose from this announcement, and there is going to be a table that we will send out to you attached to this presentation. That gives you a very sort of rough estimate as to the numbers you really need to look out for in your own pharmacy. We'll also give you some information about what you need to do now, and also bearing in mind the fact that there is a Farm Plus event that's coming up as well. So we'll give you a bit more detail on that. So let's have a look at what actually happened in the past few days. Okay, so effectively what happened is that the government decided to impose the pharmacy cuts after negotiation between the PSNC and the DH, or Department of Health, broke down. It's quite an important phrase, impose. Even though the PSNC did say that they're not going to accept it, the government decided, well, tough, really, we're going to put it on anyway. Yeah, um, so that's really what it means by impose. This was despite a number of things that were going on. We put a lot of work into the background. The whole of pharmacy put a lot of work into it as well. But this is despite the 2 million signature petition, a Price Waterhouse Cooper report, basically stating that each pharmacy generates around about £250,000 of net benefit to the community, and a huge amount of lobbying was also done, and there's a lot of other work that went on to actually avoid these cuts in the first place. But at the end of the day, government decided, nope, we're not going to listen, we're going to impose these cuts. It means, in effect, that the government will press ahead with these cuts regardless of public opinion. And just to give you an idea, these cuts are actually split into two parts. There's going to be an impact between December and March, and that's quite a big impact. And then there's going to be another impact in April to March, which is slightly less impactful per month than the first impact, if you get my gist. And the table that we'll send out in this email will give you an idea of roughly how much your pharmacy stands to gain or lose. Um, we'll also be going over the implications of the cuts for your own pharmacy shortly, and as I said, we're not going to quote national figures here because really they don't make much sense to the individual contractor. So we'll be trying to focus in on really what it means to your own pharmacy. Okay, let's make a move on and let's have a look at the brief history. So, in other words, what really happened to take us to where we are now. And I'm going to go back 4 months ago. I'm not going to go back any longer than that. I'm pretty sure you know what happened. But about 4 months ago, there was a referendum, and there was essentially a bloodbath that occurred after that. And the ministers changed over. The pharmacy minister, in particular, changed over as well. Then we had a very brief pause. I believe it was for a few days to recollect and analyze exactly what was proposed. And then, in effect, what happened is that the intention of the cuts was re-announced, and they basically said, "No, we're going to still go ahead and press on with this." Very recently, what happened then was that as soon as the announced, the cuts were announced, the PSNC rejected the proposals. The PSNC negotiations effectively broke down, and the government at this day and age, at this stage, really has decided to impose the cuts despite resistance from the sector and the public as well. And that's all occurred within around about a 3-4 month period. So it's quite a lot that's happened. Okay, let's make a move on. What is the intention of the government? One of the things that you really need to understand is, it seems really daft, with all the evidence and everything that's actually been going on, that the government should still crack ahead and decide that they still want to take this money out of the system. I'm just going to give you a brief idea of some of the things that's going through the government's mind. It's not to say in any stage or form, in any stage that we agree with this, but it's to give you an idea of really where the government is going with this. So, I mean, there are other reasons as well, but we've identified four, but there are other reasons as well. But the four main ones are the NHS financial position, okay, and that is effectively in 2015 and 16, the NHS deficit was at 1.85 billion. I mean, it's a huge amount, and there are various sources out there as well, but there was one projection which suggested that by 2020 that overspend will reach in the region of about 10 billion. I mean, that is ridiculous sums of money to be overspending on. However, when you drill down a little bit further, most of the deficits is actually from the trusts and the foundation trusts, and these include things like hospitals. And effectively, what's happening is that demand for these sorts of services is outstripping funding, which means that, for example, there's more people out there, they live for longer, there's more expensive medication, and hence sort of like the um, the demand for this is actually more than what we were able to put into the system. So it gives you an idea of how dire the NHS financial position is from the government's point of view. I mean, they've mentioned this in the past, but the second thing is that we're not going to pay pharmacists to be just dispensers. In other words, why should we pay you this much money just for you to give out medication? We want you to do a lot more for your money. And our response really is obviously we do a lot more than that. We do a lot more than being dispensers, but that's not the way the government sees it. They also mentioned that they have too many low volume pharmacies, and a figure that's being quoted around quite a bit is that their intention was to close down 3,000 pharmacies by natural attrition, which basically means either things like mergers, physical shutdowns, etc., those sorts of things. Um, and also, finally, they want pharmacists to become more clinical. In other words, they want pharmacists to contribute more to the clinical management of the patients as opposed to just being dispensers. And you've got various things like the Pharmacy Integration Fund, which is promoting GP pharmacists, so pharmacists in GP practices. So it gives you an idea of really where the government position is. I mean, you can understand it, although there are a number of arguments to counteract why these sorts of cuts should really be affecting pharmacy, when in actual fact they're a net generator for the UK. Okay, let's have a look at this. Now, along with this, what we've done a bit of work in the background to try and give you an idea as to how much these cuts are going to mean to you in particular. As I said earlier on, there's not much point in us bantering around national figures. It really doesn't make much sense to you. But really what you should be looking at is where does this actually fit in with your pharmacy. And what we're going to do is we're going to send you this table. It gives you an idea of the detail that's gone into this. And it gives you an idea of how much you stand to lose. So for example, on the left-hand side, there is the items per month. And that's split up into various bands. You've got 1,000, 2,000, 2,500, etc., all the way up to 15,000. Don't worry too much about the rows in grey in the middle. The ones which you really need to look at and focus in on most of all are the bits in red on the right hand side. So this year's loss for 16-17, this year's loss for 17-18, and the total loss as well. Now, if you remember earlier on, I mentioned that there were two parts to this cuts. There is one which is going to hit you this year in December, from December, I should say, to April 2017. And there's going to be another set of cuts which is going to be from 2017, April 2017 to March 2018. So this what it tries to do is tries to split it up into what you're going to get hit this year, and what you're going to be hit next year. And the last column, right at the right hand side, is what your total potential loss or gain, as if you're a really low dispensing pharmacy, might be um, in the next 16 months or so. So, for example, you can see that if your pharmacy is doing 4,000 items a month, it's likely that in 2016-17, in other words, this part of the year, it's going to be down by around about 7,644. Um, and then, for example, the following year is going to be down by 16,860, which leads to a total loss of potentially around about 24,500. It just gives you an idea, really, of where you stand, and this will be emailed out to you um, later on as well. Okay, so let's move on. Let's look at some of the things that you need to do now. Now, sorry, there's a typo on here. It's not on the 7th and the 8th. It's actually on the 8th and 9th. So please come to the PharmaPlus events on the 8th and 9th of November 2016. Sorry about that. There is a typo here. Where we'll explain what these changes mean. We'll go into a lot more detail. So we'll talk to you about what changes are going to occur to the establishment payments. We'll talk to you about the introduction of something called the single activity fee, which is going to replace many of the payments you're going to get now. We'll talk to you about the new regulations that allow mergers to occur. So something you may want to consider if you really are going to be impacted. An explanation of what the pharmacy access scheme is. Okay, we'll talk to you about quality payments as well. They're introducing new payments based upon the quality of the service that you provide. And we'll also talk to you about the number and changes of reimbursements that are related to drugs as well. We'll talk to you about the Pharmacy Integration Fund, and we'll also talk to you about the Urgent Medication Supply Pilot as well. And also, what I would like you to do between now and the 8th and 9th of November is to do effectively a SWOT analysis. In other words, to consider what strengths your pharmacy has at the moment, what weaknesses does it have, what opportunities it have, and what threats do they have as well. It does seem incredibly threatening at the moment, obviously with these cuts, but if you plan your pharmacy now, you can do a number of things to mitigate the cuts that are about to occur. Okay, we'll also explore with you a number of other things as well. How, for example, to maximize your current services. We'll talk to you also about how to start new NHS services, looking at new private services, reviewing your retail opportunities, marketing your pharmacy, and also, quite importantly, stopping leaks in your operations. In other words, there are money drainers out there that you can actually plug, and we'll help you to identify those as well. And also the most important things at the moment. At the moment, yes, there is a lot of emotion up in the air, but it's really important. And I know it's easy for me to say this here, but try not to panic for the moment. Okay, at least take a step back and logically assess the situation. Don't make any hasty decisions. Don't sort of sell up or anything like that in the next few weeks. Yeah, just bear with us for the time being. Okay. We're going to need to look at planning and growing new opportunities for your pharmacy, and also delivering on the existing opportunities that you've created as well. Right. Now, as I said earlier on, there is a PharmaPlus event. Okay, so it's on the 8th and the 9th of November in the north and south of London. I would strongly suggest that you come to this event. You already have been sent a booking form out. We will attach one onto this email as well when it gets sent out, so at least you'll have that. Please book onto it and come along and see us and let us sort of help you through this as well. Okay, so that is really what I wanted to speak to you about. I really hope everything goes well for you. Please, please, please don't panic. I know it's easy for me to say this, but let's work on this together. And I'm sure PharmPlus can help you through this difficult time and also through these unprecedented times as well. Okay, then, speak to you soon, and hopefully I'll see you soon as well. Take care now. Goodbye.